of Taiwan, I'm Yvonne with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Eastern Taiwan's Hualien County continues to battle with rescue and cleanup difficulties after Typhoon Ragasa caused a natural dam to burst and flood a town. As Irene Ling reports, local residents are steeling themselves while helpers pour in to join the recovery efforts.
我很心酸哦，可是怎么样呢？我们还是要做啊，不然我们要去哪里？
As she pulls herself together to do work on her flooded home, Chen Wanling tries to hold back tears in front of her husband and mother in the aftermath of this unexpected disaster. Her husband, Chen Hanzhen, says his family has lived here for the past 8 decades, now forced to stay in a local shelter. Today, he got up at 4 a.m. and came straight to his house and hauled out furniture. He said he had heard announcements in the past telling people to get upstairs if water comes. But on the day of the flood, he did not get any warning, and there was no time to react.
那边本来整片后面那边都是房子啊，种一些那个豆类啊、花生啊这样子的。突然那个水从后面整个这样涌上来，我妈妈就跟我讲，它真的是什么？我马上把那个老婆、小孩，还有那个可以拿的东西都来不及了。 因为那个我们的淤泥已经差不多超过膝盖了，差不多是到大腿这边了，所以说我要进去的话可能不方便，啊，我就想啊，就是看有没有什么漂流木啊，我就把它铺一铺，至少说不会陷入到那个泥泞里面。
Inside the house, the children's height chart on the wall is now stained by mud. Doorways are completely stuck, making it impossible to save what's left inside. He says each day is a struggle, but he and his family are getting through it by keeping a brave face.
过一天算一天啊，不然怎么办？到时候如果挖了土，把泥泞挖掉之后，还要怎么样？那个怎么样去分割？那个事情都很多了。对啊，那个都后面事情在做。现在重点就是先把家园先用好。
They're one of many families in this neighborhood in eastern Taiwan's Hualien County to suffer from destructive flooding, after a natural dam in the mountains breached twice on September 23rd from intense rain brought by Typhoon Ragasa. This neighborhood on the outskirts of Guangfu Township has seen some of the worst damage in the area. But cleanup efforts have mostly been concentrated on the high-traffic roads and residences near the train station. This whole area used to be farmlands. Now houses inside are completely flooded out. There's still little can be done as the water keeps flowing down this way and the mud is still thick and wet. There are ongoing rescue operations in this area. First responders have been deployed to check for missing persons in houses buried in mud. At the Emergency Response Center, officials are constantly being briefed on the latest reports. As of Friday, 15 people have been confirmed dead, and 7 are still missing in Guangfu.
大部分都是在佛祖街以及自强路。目前整个的一个水位还很高有的地方是因为土沙还很多，所以我们的同仁没有办法完全清理进到里面去确认。目前这几个地方，我们由花莲消防局的同仁以及台北市。 还有新北市的同仁目前在现场做搜寻的一个工作。
On the streets, volunteers from around the country are arriving at Guangfu train station. The Transportation Ministry is waiving train fares for pre-approved volunteer groups going to and from Guangfu Station. Lone travelers still have to pay for the ride, but that's of little concern for some passionate volunteers from outside of town.
因为我们其实大一到现在来光复其实蛮多次，然后看到这个地方变成这样，我们其实也蛮心痛的，就想要刚好借由这次的连假来尽一份心力，可以帮多少忙就帮多少忙。
我们今天成功把这扇铁门撬起来了，
对，然后也把很多东西全部挖出来了，
请家具拿出来，
都自发性的。然后我们刚好下区间车之后遇到，我就问他们有没有工具，我就分享工具给他们。
Officials have kept the highest warning for the dam, as there is still water flowing downstream. For the locals and helpers in this town, it's an anxious wait to find out how long it would take until they can return and rebuild. Fu Huahong, Hank Xu, John Su, and Irene Lin in Hualien for TaiwanPlus.
As rescue and recovery efforts continue in Hualien, victims' relatives and survivors say there was no evacuation order despite the risk. As John Van Trieste reports, it's an issue that's bringing local and central governments head-to-head.
Rescuers and search dogs scour the mud and the destruction in Hualien County. It's been 3 days since a lake in the mountains violently burst its banks in a typhoon, killing at least 14 in the town below. Victims' relatives and survivors agree. There was no early warning and no evacuation order, despite alarm at Taiwan's forestry agency at the state of the lake, and recommendations to the local government to get locals out. Still, an evacuation order would have had to come from the county government, and it didn't. The local district court is set to investigate whether negligence is to blame for the deaths. The fire agency says locals did have some warning, including emergency text messages and loudspeaker broadcasts.
村里广播有点问题啊，所以警察的派出所啊，它的警车的出动的一个广播，跟消防分队的消防车出动巡逻的广播啊，是不断在进行。
But many in the area say they didn't know there was any danger before the surging floodwaters poured in. The central government says the failure to properly warn and evacuate residents needs investigating. The Interior Ministry says Taiwan's early warning system should have given ample warning.
这个告警系统很多人以为说一次发送出去就结束，不是。如果它的危机或者是潜在的危险还在的话，每2个小时你只要靠近它那个相关的警戒范围，它就会自动告诉你。
As accusations against the Hualien County government spread online and investigations begin, the search for the 11 people still missing continues, with many residents banding together in mutual aid to try and rebuild a community in ruins. Andy Xue and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Several world leaders are advocating for Taiwan's inclusion as they gather in New York for an annual UN assembly. They say China is misinterpreting a UN resolution to keep Taiwan at the door.
Years ago, China wrongly interpreted UNGA Resolution 2758. And today, it continues to claim that Taiwan is a part of the People's Republic. The end result has been Taiwan been silenced. The 23 million people's voices have been kept unheard, keeping Taiwan out of fully participating in the UN system and contributing to the world.
Palawan President Serango Whips Jr. says including Taiwan will help strengthen the United Nations. The leaders of Paraguay and the Marshall Islands, both allies of Taiwan, also voiced support during the UN Assembly. Taiwan has been excluded from the UN since 1971, when the People's Republic of China was recognized as the only representative of China under Resolution 2758. The resolution does not mention Taiwan by name or say that Taiwan cannot participate in the UN or its agencies. As the war in Ukraine continues, Czech President Peter Pavel called on other countries to pay attention to rising tensions in the Taiwan Strait.
Turning a blind eye to Ukraine today is a green light to any future aggressor anywhere in the world. Disruptions of the status quo in the Taiwan Strait or elsewhere in the Indo-Pacific would further destabilize global security and trade. Geographical distance offers no protection. Security in one part of the world is directly linked to security everywhere.
The UN General Assembly lasts through next Monday. The U.S. may impose 100% tariffs on semiconductor makers that don't meet targets for U.S.-based production. The Wall Street Journal reports Washington could require chip makers to produce as many chips in the U.S. as they sell to American customers or face the steep levies. But firms already expanding in the U.S. could benefit. Taiwan's TSMC, which makes around 90% of the world's most advanced chips, has begun production at its new plant in Arizona to supply some of its U.S. customers. The Wall Street Journal is reporting U.S. chipmaker Intel approaching Taiwan's TSMC about possible investments or a manufacturing partnership. No further details of the talks were revealed, and both companies have declined to comment. The two tech giants previously talked in April about creating a joint venture, with TSMC potentially holding a 20% stake. Intel has seen a steady stream of investments and partnerships with other major tech players in recent weeks. The U.S. government also recently took a 10% stake in Intel, investing nearly $8 billion. It comes as the U.S. grows uneasy about depending on Taiwan for advanced chips and as Taiwan worries about production shifting overseas. A recent U.S. ban on products from Taiwan's biggest bicycle maker, Giant, over alleged forced labor has reignited debate here in Taiwan. Migrant worker advocates are calling for more reform, while business leaders are considering what regulations they can hand.
Taiwan's migrant worker system is under debate after U.S. Customs and Border Protection issued an order blocking imports from the world's leading bike brand, Giant, on suspicion of using forced labor. The U.S. claims appear to be targeted at conditions for migrant workers, mostly from Southeast Asia, hired at Giant's Taiwan factories. Migrant worker advocates are celebrating the U.S. order.
We have been waiting for this for a long time, not because we want to attack the industry in Taiwan, but we know how serious the forced labor condition is. We really hope that this will lead to a positive change for all the stakeholders in Taiwan.
Some in the business community worry the move signals continued U.S. pressure as Taiwan seeks a deal to lower its U.S. tariffs. Others urge separating this case from tariff politics and say companies like Giant are taking the right steps.
我认为说巨大的处理也是很合适啊，就是说他先提出自己其实在劳工保护方面是有努力的啊，那接下来就看美方市场进一步的反应啊，但是我强调的是这件事情跟川普他目前对外的这个关税的这些措施应该是没有关联。
The U.S. order, known as a Withhold Release Order, or WRO, is the first against a Taiwanese company. But 3 Taiwanese fishing vessels have also had orders placed against them in a fishing industry that has often faced accusations of abuse of migrant workers. And Taiwan is far from alone. There are currently 53 WROs for entities in 13 countries, including Taiwan. China by far has the most, with 37 WROs against Chinese entities, plus 1 fishing vessel. The issue of labor rights is a recurring topic in Taiwan and in U.S.-Taiwan relations, especially the large recruitment fees that leave workers in debt and bound to their employers. Giant is actually one of the few companies to have instituted a policy that would eliminate or pay back such fees to newly hired workers. But advocates say currently employed workers need the same protections.
Remediation is a very, very important part of the change. All of the current migrants, they paid before. So if you really want to do some change, you need to refund to them. They need to be paid back. The most importantly, workers should be centered. It's not the client-centered or brand-centered. The workers themselves should be centered. They need to participate in the whole process.
Other business leaders say some friction stems from gaps between Taiwan's labor laws and international standards, and aligning these might lower conflicts between local companies and international customers.
有一些厂商他可能没有帮国际大厂代工，他没有受到这种国际大厂的直接要求，但是他是合乎我们劳动部的这个要求。你如果说把这个规范调得更严格的话，其实一方面让我们台湾的产品在海外呢能够比较不受到障碍，那另外一方面呢也可以让就是说我们整个的这种国家的形象呢有所提升。
As Giant appeals the U.S. order and advocates push for broader reforms, the decision could shape future rules for migrant workers in Taiwan and influence upcoming trade disputes. Joseph Wu and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's High Court has sentenced an Air Force officer to 16 years in prison for spying for China. Zhang Mingde was found guilty of leaking secrets about Air Force exercises and the location of joint U.S.-Taiwan military activities. He also sent sensitive information about the background of military personnel and Taiwanese political parties. The court's ruling can be appealed. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more of our stories. Finally, we take you to the vibrant streets of India, where preparations are underway for an annual Hindu festival. I'm Yvonne. Take care. I'll see you next time.